Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Soul Aligned and Human as Fuck. This first episode is a personal reflection of mine about what happens when growth, spirituality, and visibility exist without containment, and what that does to the nervous system, and how you can regulate in an environment like this. Because, as many of you know, I have been living here in Tulum for about 8 months. And during my time here, I've had to become very honest with myself about what is happening around me as it relates to image, integrity, and attention versus connection. I will be sharing what this environment revealed to me about image-driven social fields, performative connection, and the nervous system cost of constantly being on. This is not about blaming or shaming anyone. It's about discernment, values, and compatibility. I have not spoken about this publicly before. I've been having these conversations privately with clients and friends, but then it started to feel very important for me to name this out loud, especially because I believe these topics are not discussed in the coaching and the healing spaces. And this is why this podcast exists. This podcast is a space for real, honest conversations to happen about healing, spiritual journeys, and what actually happens as we evolve as humans, honestly. What I have noticed lately, I would say in the past 2 years, is how image-driven our society has become everywhere. But especially in Tulum, where energy tends to be very amplified. These environments push what I like to call middle energy. Middle energy is the energy of access without choice. Everyone wants access to everyone else on social media and in public spaces, but no one is actually choosing anyone or choosing an authentic connection. Because why would you choose one person or choose to have an authentic connection with them when you can keep everything open and surface level? And here in Tulum, that is what people call spirituality. But that is not spirituality. In my opinion, that is avoidance. And I want to emphasize that not everyone here in Tulum is like this, because I have met so many amazing people and have created authentic connections here. But from my experience, many healers in Tulum prioritize image over integrity. They're more concerned with how they are perceived than how they relate. They're more focused on likes, on invitations, on visibility than actually treating people with respect or holding grounded ethical containers in their spaces. Here, I feel like social currency has replaced real connection, and for a while, I thought I was the only one noticing this until I started having some honest conversations with my friends who also felt the same unease as me. I've found that people here ask, how am I being seen, instead of how am I relating? And so what actually happens to the nervous system in environments like this, I will say that the cost is very high. When there is a constant low-grade performance layer, especially in these spiritual or conscious spaces that are supposed to be authentic and grounded, where people are supposed to go to be held, to heal, and to soften, this triggers major anxiety and pushes the nervous system into fight or flight mode. And fight or flight mode can show up differently according to each person. In my experience, it has shown up as always monitoring how you are perceived by others, feeling the need to constantly be on, to constantly show that you are interesting, attractive, or relevant, feeling like you need to over-explain yourself or justify your boundaries, feeling energized but extremely depleted after, and leaving interactions feeling just very tense, wired, or vaguely unsettled in some way. These environments create a chronic vigilance where your nervous system is constantly scanning and asking, am I safe here? Am I valued? Am I about to be dropped? Am I being judged? Am I being used? And when you're in that state, healing can't happen because the nervous system can't really relax in environments like this where you're constantly being watched, where you're constantly being assessed, where you are constantly comparing yourself to others, or where others are constantly comparing you to them and other people, and you're being extracted from. When I am valued for what I can provide, like my energy, my visibility, rather than be seen for who I am, my body does not feel safe. Because attention is not safety and visibility is not connection. Spaces without integrity do not support healing. So I want to share what I actually did to help me regulate in a space like this. The first thing that I tried that has been extremely revealing is showing up with honesty. When I noticed myself being pushed into fight or flight around certain people, I didn't immediately cut them off or disappear. I tried having real, grounded conversations with them. I named what I was feeling. I spoke from the body, not from accusation. And when I did this, something very interesting happened. People who were on a similar energetic level, people who weren't invested in image or ego, met me where I was. We had open, honest conversations, and the relationship actually became stronger and safer afterward. But people who were operating from ego, they got triggered. They became defensive. They distorted what I said. They took my boundaries personally, and they reacted instead of reflecting. And that response gave me the clarity that I needed. It didn't give me judgment. It just gave me information. At that point, I realized, okay, I don't need to force this connection, and I simply ended the connection because my nervous system had already answered the question, but the conversation I had with them confirmed it. So if you find yourself in a similar situation, in a similar environment, if you are also here in Tulum and you're experiencing the same thing, here are some practical ways that you can deal with this. The first thing is to notice how your body feels after interactions with certain people, not just during the interactions themselves. If you feel anxious or depleted after interacting with a certain person, that is a sign to step away. I also would encourage you to try honesty, though, before totally disappearing, if it feels safe to do so. Regulated people can handle honest and open conversations, and they can handle directness. Dysregulated people cannot, and that tells you everything that you need to know. Pay attention to people who don't rush you and who don't try to extract from you. And then remember that leaving a connection or a place is not rejection, it's discernment. You are not obligated to stay in environments that keep your nervous system on edge, even if they look aligned on the surface. And finally, you don't need to convince anyone of your worth. If a space requires performance to belong, your body will never fully rest there. And sometimes the most healing thing you can do is stop trying to regulate inside an environment that benefits from your dysregulation. I'm sharing this message today to name the danger of image-driven environments on the nervous system. When your nervous system becomes anxious around certain people or in certain places, and you've already tried to have an honest conversation with them, that's when you end it. It's a signal to remove yourself. I noticed this clearly when I stopped going to a certain place where one male was constantly staring at me in a way that felt extremely invasive. No matter what time I showed up at this place, he was always there pulling my energy from me, so I left. And I chose to go to a different space for this certain thing. And I did the same thing with a friend who stood me up not once, but twice. Once, leaving me waiting outside her house for 25 minutes, after which she never apologized and instead tried to make it my fault. I realized this is not rejection. This is a values mismatch. It's about compatibility and learning to listen when your body tells the truth before your mind tries to overwrite it. Even with growth and awareness, things still come up. It is up to us to decide how we will handle it. Environments do matter, okay? And you know this because I'm an astrocartographer, and the whole reason why I came to Tulum is because it's on my Sun MC line, which is all about visibility, which is all about confidence. But this environment has shown me that my values do not match it. My nervous system has told me on multiple occasions that there is a value mismatch, that this is not the place for me, despite all the amazing things that have happened. And this is exactly why this podcast exists, so that we can have these conversations. This podcast is for people who are on a healing path, but also people who are willing to be honest with others and themselves, people who have a desire for depth over performance, and people who have a curiosity about how healing actually takes place in real life. Because it's not just going to a sound healing and then, oof, wow, it's not just doing ayahuasca. No, it's more than that. It's through the lived experience, getting triggered, feeling your nervous system dysregulated, and then making the choice of how you are going to deal with that consciously. So, again, this is not about bypassing or pretending to be beyond others or human experiences. This is about real life and how we are experiencing it. Because personal growth and development does not mean that we stop being affected by certain things. It means we start noticing what affects us and we choose accordingly. So if this is something that you think that you resonate with, then I invite you to stay, listen, and see what unfolds in the upcoming episodes, where I plan on sharing interview-style conversations rooted in honesty, responsibility, and lived experience with other practitioners, creatives, and founders. If you've been working on yourself and have been noticing other people bypassing, other people living in this performative type world or in victimhood, and you have wondered, oh, is this just me? Or like, what's wrong with me? You're not alone. And this podcast is for you. So thank you for being here, and keep an eye out for the next episode, which will hopefully feature a guest. See you soon.